Well, welcome back. Joining us this morning, Congressman Mark DeSaulnier, Democrat, capital D from Concord. We're going to be taking a look at the mood in Washington. The State of the Union address this past week. Donald Trump, he stuck to his script. He made his points, and he said America will never be a socialist country. Your reaction?
Never was a socialist country. It's not going to be.
Point being, he is obviously drawing a line in the sand for the upcoming presidential election. And he is trying to define himself, as well as Nancy Pelosi and you Democrats in that House, as well as the Socialist Party. Your reaction to that, because he's trying to drive you that way.
Well, he has been successful at defining things to a minority of Americans, so we have to be aware of that, but it's not the truth. And I think most Americans have come to take, at the very least, a grain of salt with what he says. For most of us, we don't believe what he says.
Should we take a grain of salt with what the Democrats say? For example, when I have a representative out of New York with the Green Deal that says we're going to guarantee everybody an income, whether they want to work or not. Should we believe that?
American voters should question every politician, irrespective of how they feel. That's the way the system's supposed to work. They're supposed to make sure that what we're saying actually is truthful and meaningful and is going to do what it says it is.
If that's the case, and I sure hope it does, do you see the Democrats doing that with their presidential primaries, or are we going to see a certain part of the party become a Tea Party element that commands the primary?
I don't know. I personally think that the country, as an amateur historian who likes to read American history, we swing, the pendulum swings right and left. It's a tension between individual and the social contract. My own belief is we've swung way too over to the right. That's why we have this concentration of power and inequality. So we need to push back this way. The question is how that defines itself as we go through the election.
As a student of history, okay, let's take a look at a couple of races. Everybody says that Trump can't win. I mean, his poll numbers aren't going to get him through. There's only small margins that elected him in key states, and it's not going to replicate. And yet, history shows that whether it was Richard Nixon against George McGovern, or the first Bush against the second Bush against John Kerry, even unpopular presidents, Republican presidents, managed to skate if the Democrats go too far to the left. America isn't ready for that either.
Well, don't forget, everybody said 2 years ago, that it'd never be President Trump. We went right up until election night, no one thinking that that would happen. Of course, we didn't know about the influence from a lot of people, including the Russians, in our election process. So this is going to be a very important election for Americans in American history. I think we will see it through. I think that it's good that we have a lot of people running in the primary. The wild card is somebody like Schultz. If somebody like that runs, it'll...
Schultz, the CEO
of Starbucks. If you get an independent, that's how Bill Clinton became president of the United States, which I think was good for the country, but H.W. Bush probably would have won re-election if it wasn't for the third party sucking votes away from him.
Well, you have a third party because if you have one party that people feel is too extreme on the right, and you have another party that they feel is extreme on the left, and somebody like Schultz comes in and says, you can't pay for universal health care, and your border wall, and that's it. There is a natural migration towards the middle.
I would say that's historically inaccurate. That we have billionaires who decide they want to come in and get attention. The only third-party candidate who had real significance and could have won was Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay, but they managed to draw the balance of power one way or the other. But again, to the question on the Democrats, what do you see as their most convincing argument for being elected, not getting rid of Trump, but for why I should put you in power at this going forward?
We're going to be honest, and we're going to be honest for working Americans, people who've been left out of this economic...
Can we be a little more specific than that?
That's pretty specific, but if you want to go in, I can sit here and bore you, and I know you don't want me to do that, about things we can do. We can raise the minimum wage. We can make sure that workers don't get laid off and employers don't desert communities that we have invested in and go offshore. We can make sure that health care works for everyone. We can make sure that the government is held accountable and we don't do wasteful things.
Okay, can you name me the last administration that did that?
I think every administration's did that to some degree. You know, the glory years of this country was FDR through Eisenhower. We got through a depression, a world war, and we came out as a superpower that we still are. But we're diminishing because we don't focus on middle-income people, and we need to get back to that.
So make the middle great again?
Yes, that's true. That's a good line. I'll get a hat. I'll get a hat made for you.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Congressman Mark DeSaulnier. All right, let's take a look at the